Ari Louis Show.
You're listening to the Sports Rabbi, hosted by Josh Halickman on IsraelSportsRadio.com.
From a radio station in Tel Aviv, Israel, it's Louis Live! That's your host, me, Andy Gershman, and Josh Halickman. Welcome, everybody, to a special end-of-the-year sports show here on Louis Live and Israel Sports and News Radio. Jam-packed show. We don't have any time to waste. We'll get started. You know, folks, when I was 18 years old, I used to enjoy driving the streets of Arizona, listening to my first guest. He's the thinking half of the Gambo Nash Show, one of the legendary sports shows in Phoenix. The legend is on. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm going to say it. On the line right now, please give a warm Louis Live welcome to Mr. Mark Asher. Mark, what up?
I'm doing well, bud. How you doing?
Hey, doing great. So it's great to have you on. The Cardinals, a number 2 seed, has not ever happened in their history. They look great. Talk about their plans going into the postseason. What do you think will get done? What do they need to get done to do well?
Well, hold on, Ari. Hold on.
Yeah.
Are we not going to tell your listening audience how this interview has even come about?
What are you talking about? What did I do? What do you mean? I listened to you in Arizona.
Hold on.
I mean, even I know what happened.
Let's talk about this for a second, and then we'll get to the Cardinals and the Suns and all that other good
Bring
stuff.
it to me. I have it coming. I deserve it. Go ahead.
Okay, so I did a show in Phoenix for 13 years called Gambo Nash. It was a drive time talk show, number 1 rated show, pretty popular. I think Ari would agree.
Yeah.
And every once in a blue moon, probably 2-3 times a year, we would get a call, and a guy would start talking about the Cardinals. He had a decent radio voice, not great, but a decent radio voice. And he would say something about the Cardinals or the Suns, and then he would say some weird chicken butt, and next thing you know, he would say, Ari Louis Show, Ari Louis Show, Ari Louis Show. And then would hang up.
Wait a minute. I've got
and
to
I was
ask
like,
this.
who the heck is the Ari? So I Googled it. Good thing, at the time, Ari Louis was a nobody. You know, Google his name.
Wait a minute. What do you mean at the time?
At the time, right?
At the time.
Literally nothing would come up. So I'm like, this guy doesn't. And so then, a couple months would go by, and then another phone call would come in. Ari Louis Show, Ari Louis Show, Ari Louis Show. Then I started getting pissed, right? And I'm like, all right, this guy is starting to mess with my show and mess with me. And so every caller, like John and I would look at each other. If the guy started rambling a little bit, I'm like, is this Ari Louis?
Oh,
so
dear God.
I don't know, 3 months ago, I get a friend request on Facebook, and it's from a guy named Ari Louis. And I said, wait a second. This can't be. This guy doesn't exist. Ari Louis is a made-up name. And so I go, and I'm like, before I accept it, I think I sent a message, something along the lines of, oh, so you tormented my show for 10 years, and now you want to be friends on Facebook. And he said, hey, man, sorry, dude, I didn't know. I was a young kid, blah, blah, blah. And all right. And I said, I am just at peace knowing you actually exist. And so begrudgingly, at the time, I kind of wanted to beat up Ari Louis. I said, you know what?
You'd have to come pretty
Let's
far
let
for that.
bygones be bygones. Obviously, we all do things in our past to whatever, try to get a name or whatever. So, hey, I'm happy that you're doing well out there. And then you asked me to be on the show, and I said, absolutely. Let's have some fun. So, before we get into the cards.
Wait. I've got one question for you. This is Andy Gershman. I want to know if there was ever a Diana Taurasi mention, because all we hear from Ari is Phoenix Mercury nonsense.
There was all kinds of stuff. Ari, you could probably remember better. I tried to block it out. Limits from it. But he would say some of the weirdest, and then he would, I don't even know, he would make up words, and it was very much like,
Can't be.
when the Howard Stern show, remember the guy used to call up and
Baba
prank
Booey,
people
Baba
on
Booey.
Howard Stern's the Baba Booey, and he would say, Baba Booey, whatever. And they got Dan Patrick once, I think.
Oh, right.
They thought they had the Cubs guy.
Right, Bartman, yeah.
Bartman, yeah. So it was very much like that, and like I would know it was coming sometimes, and then I couldn't do anything about it. And then there was even a YouTube video that Ari posted of Ari calling into the show, and he just had a picture of a tape recorder and
Randy the
called
second
in, and
Shocking.
we would delete it. You know, we had a 7-second delay, so we would all delete it. So whatever he said never really made it on there, but then it would just completely fluster John and I. And so I give you props on that, Mr. Lewis.
Oh, I didn't know it flustered you guys. All right. Well,
yeah. By the way, you better hope I don't get the call-in number to your show. So don't start
oh, God, that's good stuff. But I always enjoy listening to your show. I guess I want to be a part of it. And also, you were, guys, as you said, number one, so I figured, what a good way, a free commercial, you know what I mean? But
for the non-existent Ari Louis show?
Well, no, but that was public access show. That's why I couldn't find me on Google. I knew I was doing it. But
it was private. It was like it didn't exist. It was like Martin the Wind. I mean, it didn't.
By the way, and whenever Mark, a big man, come on the show, Gamble, not as big. He declined, the author. But hey, that's the way it goes. I said Mark is the thinking half of the program. All right, so we got that. The audience knows about that. That's good stuff. And now we can both be happy because the Cardinals are doing well. And you're a real Cardinals fan, not one of these fair weather guys. You're really into the Cardinals. And is this their best season ever? They've been to the Super Bowl before, but obviously they're going to get to 14 wins, around there. So what do you think about this season, their chances going forward?
Well, I said this today. I do a podcast out here just once a week just to kind of stay, busy. And I said, look, this is their best chance to win a Super Bowl since they were up by a couple points with 2 minutes left in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, before Big Ben.
Pittsburgh. I said, but even that year, no one gave them a chance in the playoffs. No one gave them a chance against Carolina when they went on the road. No one gave them a chance when they were home against Philly. And then when they got to the Steelers, no one gave them a chance there. So the tide has turned. Everyone's giving them a chance now. I mean, I heard Tony Dungy say the other day, the toughest team in the league right now is the Arizona Cardinals. I've heard other guys say, look, the Arizona Cardinals are the team to beat. So with trepidation, I agree. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because anything can happen. But, yeah, absolutely. This team, I think, is more equipped to win and go deep than that team that actually did win and go deep from 2008 because this team has everything you need. They've got a very good defense. They've got a nice mix of youth and veteran. They've got, playmakers all over the place. Guys, even when Tyrann Mathieu goes out, look how great the defense played against Green Bay this week. It was unbelievable. And then the offensive line is much improved. And Ari, as you know, for years, that was one of the sticking points for the Arizona Cardinals was their complete lack of an offensive line. And then on top of all that, they've got a great quarterback, maybe a quarterback that is even playing better than when Kurt Warner was the quarterback here for the Arizona Cardinals and Carson Palmer. The statistics say that he's better. I saw the soft spot for Warner, but again, Palmer, the guy has been absolutely, what is he, like 25-2 or something like that in his last, 20, all he does is win when he's been here. So I do think this is their best opportunity. I think this week is a key week because Carolina plays first. And if Carolina beats Tampa, the Arizona Cardinals really have nothing to play for on Sunday except for pride. And I think I would put pride aside. If Seattle beats you, big deal. I know you lose the 9-game winning streak, but there is no chance that I'm putting Carson Palmer or David Johnson or anyone, for that matter, that really means something to this offense in jeopardy by playing them a lot in that game. I just don't think it's the negatives far outweigh the positives. And I know you'd love to go 14-2, and that's a nice stamp, but 14-2 and lose somebody, and you go all the way into the playoffs intact with your complete lineup, I'll take 13-3 all day. So, there's a big week coming up. But with that being said, if Carolina somehow loses to Tampa, then you got to go for it because being that one seed and playing at home, this team plays very well at the University of Phoenix Stadium. So they could have all their games at home. You got to go for it.
Do you think there's added confidence within the organization? I mean, seeing Carolina lose, it had to, to see the chink in the armor basically against a team Atlanta they had just blown out 2 weeks ago. Kind of leaves the door wide open for Arizona.
It does. I don't know that, someone could look at Arizona's loss to Pittsburgh with their third-string quarterback and say, well, they're beatable. There's a lot of things you can look at and pick apart a team. I think, Carolina's a good football team. You don't go 14-0 without being a good football team. And and Cam Newton's by far the MVP this year, no doubt about that. But they're very vanilla on offense. I mean, they're not an exciting, complex offense. Arizona's offense is way more complex and way more difficult to defend, in my opinion, than Carolina's. Carolina's got a good defense, and they've got some banged-up guys. Jonathan Stewart's a little banged up. So I don't know if it gave the Cardinals confidence. I think the Cardinals think they can beat anyone in the league on any given day. So I don't know that they needed added confidence, but, some people think this could be a good thing for Carolina. You take that stigma of losing, don't lose, we're undefeated, you got to go perfect. Well, now that's out the door. Now all they have to concentrate on is winning the Super Bowl. There's nothing else that goes in front of that, trying to be a perfect team like the Dolphins. And so I think it will help Carolina. And, again, if they get healthy, I still think they're probably the team to beat just because they'll have the home field, in the postseason.
All right, Ash, last question. Again, we really appreciate the time. This has been a lot of fun going down memory lane. The Cardinals, you look at the last 7-8 years, they've been to a Super Bowl. They've been to the playoffs a few times. And I want to know what the difference is, but because before that happened, they were terrible. They were god-awful. Now they changed everything around. Is that better ownership, better management, luck, Larry Fitzgerald? What is the main reason or a few reasons that's happened?
Okay, so a few things. One, luck obviously does come into it. They remember that game they won, who was it against? Minnesota. Nathan Poole caught a touchdown from Josh McCown on, fourth down, and it knocked the Vikings out of the playoffs, and it knocked the Cardinals out of getting the number 1 pick that year. They got the number 3 pick. And because of that, that was the Eli Manning draft. And right. I don't know that if Eli Manning was your quarterback, we'd be talking about Eli Manning with 2, Super Bowls. You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
And so there was some luck. Instead, they got Larry Fitzgerald, and look how great he's been for this organization. So luck definitely comes into play. The old man, Bill Bidwell, has turned things over to Michael Bidwell, and as much of a snake as I think Michael Bidwell has been in his past, I think he's grown up. He's learned that you got to put people in place to make good decisions, and the best decision, besides the stadium, because the stadium did change things as well. It
changed the culture too.
Well, it changed the culture. It gave us a nice building to go to. It gave you a real home field advantage.
More revenue. Yeah, no doubt.
If you look at their record over the time that they've been in Arizona in this new stadium, I don't know what it is, but I know it's way above 500. I mean, They've gone 7-1 a couple of years. I mean, they've got a lot of wins at that stadium. Even in bad years, they seem to win the home games, And so the third thing, I think I'm on 3, when they got rid of Rod Graves, and Rod Graves was inept to be a GM. He was a super nice guy, but he was not a good general manager. And they brought in Steve Keim and elevated him to the top. And then they hired Bruce Arians. I mean, those two guys have changed everything. Look how many wins they have the last 3 years: 10, 11, and now
14. Yeah, it's incredible.
14. I mean, that's unreal. And so leadership is a big, big deal. Keim has pulled all the right triggers. I mean, even getting Chris Johnson, they got what they needed out of Chris Johnson. I mean, when he was healthy, he helped them win a lot of games. They picked up Dwight Freeney. I mean, Freeney's making mad money right now. Every time he gets a sack, I think each sack's worth like $200,000. And he had 3 of them on Sunday.
It's good money.
But that was a great pickup, I mean, Freeney was just sitting there at home doing nothing, and they pick him up, and he's got 7 sacks for this team that needed some sort of a pass rush. So, everything they're doing, they kind of have the Midas touch right now, it seems like. And I give a lot of the credit to Keim and BA and the front office, and I give a lot of credit to Michael Bidwell because he's stood back. He's let them do what they need to do. They've spent money. They've picked up guys. Those are things that the old Cardinals would have never done.
That's for sure.
They win in free agency. They get guys like Mike Iupati, and they would have never got those guys in the past because what people used to do is use the Cardinals as leverage. They'd come, get an offer from the Cardinals, and then they'd go get more money somewhere else.
Right.
And they don't do that now. People come here and they sign it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so great to see. I love following them here in Israel. And I hope obviously they go all the way and win it. It would certainly be nice for the city in my hometown. Ash, this has been a pleasure. Really appreciate the time. Everyone find Mark Asher on Facebook. Follow what he's doing. Hashtags, all that great stuff. Thanks for being on, brother. We appreciate it. And it was good going down memory lane.
Hey, by the way, Ari,
yes.
I got to bust your shots one more time. You're
Sure.
an hour late calling me.
Well,
you're an hour late calling me, right?
Phoenix is 10 hours back, isn't it? Than Israel?
I don't know. You told me to be ready at 8:10. I'm all ready. I'm all ready. Standing by the phone. I'm like, God, when is Ari Louis going to call me? I just want to show. Hour later, here comes the phone call.
I think it's because you guys don't daily saves. Well, I'll check that on Facebook. But my apologies. But this was a great subject. We were only going to go 8 minutes. We went 15 because you're this that good. So Ash,
Well, that's because I'm good.
Yes, I agree with you, no doubt. All right, Ash, thank you so much. We'll do it again soon, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
All right, see you guys. Take care.
All right, be well. Mark Asher, boys and girls. Coming up next, a hockey segment with WFAN's Daniel Friedman. This is Louis Live, and we'll be back after this. All right, back here on Louis Live. You're listening to us, and you can find us on Facebook. Just type in Louis Live on Facebook. Also type in Israel Sports and News Radio, and, of course, thesportsrabbi.com. And Daniel's not on the line right now, so let's just chat while we get Daniel set up. Go ahead. You'll get Daniel set up, Alex. So
Wait.
Yeah.
I didn't even get a shout out. You got at Sports Rabbi.
I was about to say you. Modern Day Maccabees.
At Costco? No.
At Jews and Sports, JEWS.
And your book, Modern Day
Sports.
Maccabees, available on Amazon and Kindle.
Yes, it is. It is.
It's a great stocking stuffer.
That's right. It is.
Or a mistletoe hanger over.
Something.
Is it available at Costco, by the way?
They
Not yet.
should.
Not
It's
yet.
not
Maybe,
it should be.
Maybe book 2 will be.
Working on book 2.
A sequel to Modern Day Maccabees?
I
I know there were that many
sequel.
Jewish athletes out there.
Huh? Sure, there are.
Nah, I don't-
I'm in the land of Jewish athletes.
Yeah. Your son might be in the second book.
My son, future modern day Maccabee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But by the way, before we went to break, you had an interesting point about comparing Carson Palmer to Kurt Warner, right?
Yeah, I would have liked to have heard what the thoughts are. What are your thoughts, Ari? I mean,
Kurt Warner is a borderline Hall of Famer.
But I've never seen Carson Palmer's wife. Whoa.
Oh, God.
No, but
Why?
Putting him on the side as a Hall of Famer was, the year that he was with Arizona, the year that they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And, obviously he was a main factor. And that wasn't, I would say, his prime of his career.
No, his prime was with the Rams.
Right.
There's a year he
100%.
won the MVP and Super Bowl MVP.
Correct. So that definitely wasn't his prime. So put aside his career for a minute, but compare and contrast those two seasons that we see right now with Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer's having a fabulous season.
Yeah.
There's no question. It would have been interesting to see what did the fans. Obviously, Kurt Warner was a name. The fans obviously were attracted to him as being this
he wasn't
Super Bowl
he
winning-
wasn't supposed to start though. He was the backup
Right.
for Matt Leinart. Matt got hurt, and that helped us. No offense to Matt Leinart.
But going back to you think Kurt Warner's a Hall of Famer?
Boy, he's borderline
Okay, but he was also about 1 yard
from having two.
of losing 2 Super Bowls.
Okay, but he was also the other way of winning 3.
Correct.
3?
He was up with 2 minutes to go against the Steelers, and he was up against the Patriots. I mean, not up. It was tied.
It was tied.
It was tied.
Right. All right.
Well, we'll
So-
talk football later on with Deep Voice Brian Hoffman. Right now, it's hockey time. On the long right now, WFAN's Daniel Freeman. Daniel, what up, my man?
How you doing?
Hey, doing great. And I'm going to pass you on to the Sports Rabbi Josh Halickman. Go ahead, Josh.
How you doing, Daniel? What's going on there in New York?
Not much. How are you?
All right, WFAN. I still listen to it here in Israel. I got to tell you, constantly listening, especially like the overnights with JJ After Dark, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. John Jastrzemski. Got to listen to him in the mornings, and I shoot around with him on Twitter a bit. A lot of fun, So let's take a look at right now. Hockey-wise, the New York Rangers. Will start off with them. They sit in second place in the Metropolitan Division, behind Washington by a fair amount of points.
That's
12
right.
points. And Henrik Lundqvist is a shell of what used to be. What's wrong with the Rangers? They've had some brutal times this year. I mean, right now, looking at the last 10, 3-6-1. Talk a bit about what's been going on in Rangerland. As a former season ticket holder, I miss being at Madison Square Garden, but I'm sure you've been there more frequently than I over the past few years.
It's hard to pinpoint. And first of all, I apologize in advance. I'm a little under the weather, so if you can't hear, just let me know, and I'll repeat myself or speak up. But the Rangers, I think Henrik Lundqvist is either playing hurt or something's up because he hasn't looked quite like himself, I don't think. And you know what else? The offense just isn't coming. I think people talk all the time about how the defense isn't doing this, the defense isn't stepping up. They're all constantly giving up on men rushes. But the bottom line is this team can't put the puck in the net. Rick Nash is, you want to talk about players who are a shell of their former selves. Rick Nash has been, as far as Rick Nash goes, he's been horrendous this year. I think, Derek Stepan was hurt, so obviously that hurt them for a while, although Derek Brassard, who I think really is their number one center. I mean, the way he's played, I think he surpassed Stepan, but certain guys just aren't stepping up the way they need to. And Martin St. Louis, obviously he had a down year last year, but The year before that, he was pretty good, and they haven't quite replaced him. They haven't found the guy. Maybe they were hoping Chris Kreider would be that guy, but he's been inconsistent. JT Miller's been inconsistent. So the kids haven't really. Kevin Hayes, I think, was a little more consistent last season, and they were hoping maybe he would take a step. So I think maybe you're seeing some of that. Some of these guys just aren't stepping in, and maybe they need to add a piece or two, which is going to be very tough because they don't have a lot of cap space to do it. So maybe they have to unload somebody. But they're in a bit of a jam, and I think the biggest problem is they're struggling to find some offense.
Hey, Daniel, this is Andy Gershman. When I'm not here in Israel, I am in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. We're pretty excited about what's going on with the Capitals. What do you think is the difference there? I mean, Ovi is Ovi, and we're used to a disappointing first to second round exit. Is this year different?
Yeah, I think you started to see it last year, really. With the way the Capitals played, I think you saw it last year already. They were a very different team, and obviously this year I think they're even better because they brought in veteran additions to really just bring in some more depth with Justin Williams and T.J. Oshie was a good add. Not that they're both lighting it up, but it just the more guys you have to step in, the better off you'll be, and certainly in the veteran leadership standpoint. But the biggest thing for me with the Capitals is behind the bench. It's Barry Trotz. I mean, that guy, he has come in, he has introduced structure, and he, in a way, it's kind of funny because this is not the first time a coach came in and tried to rein in the Capitals and say, okay, we need to be a better defensive team. You remember Adam Oates tried to do it, and it was a disaster because he kind of taught it in a way that hindered offense. It was to the point that, and I think if we want to get to the Islanders, I think the Islanders are going through something very similar right now, but it wasn't the point where guys were so scared to turn the puck over and that they weren't playing their games. They weren't focusing on offense right now. And the beauty of Barry Trotz and what makes him such a great coach is that he can preach the defense, but he doesn't forget about the offense, and he lets guys phase their games, and even if it takes him a little time. So I think that's what you're seeing now, is you're seeing kind of all those pieces coming together, and you're seeing that real two-way game, and it's being taught in a way that really benefits the group as a whole. It plays to the strengths of that roster, and I think that's the biggest thing. There's structure, there's discipline, and they're as dangerous without the puck as they are with it. And, of course, Braden Holtby has come into his own, so that really helps too. So, I mean, you're seeing a team that is really just, I think the class of not just the Eastern Conference, but might be the NHL.
You talked about Holtby, and before we let you go, the big missing piece this year in the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde season for the Montreal Canadiens has been Carey Price. How much have the Montreal Canadiens missed him? And you've seen, obviously, this first half of the season, they came out like a house on fire. In the last 12 games, they've been an absolute disaster zone. And I pretty much listened to almost every single game in the middle of the night for the Canadiens, being a former Montrealer myself. But what is going to solve the problem? They just picked up Scrivens from Edmonton for really a spare part in Cassian, who was caught drunk driving in Montreal a couple months ago. What is going to be with the Canadiens?
Well, I think, it definitely is that they're missing Carey Price. It's definitely part of it. And, I think there was some hope for some time. Mike Condon, he played well for a little while, and then he turned back into a pumpkin. And Dustin Tokarski, who, in my opinion, is better but not much better, is not really an option either. And so they went out and got Scrivens, who might help. But I think you look at the Canadiens, you look at a team that, that goes to the playoffs and largely on the shoulders of their goalie, but really it's never just the goalie. If you just have a goalie, it's really hard to be as successful as the Canadiens have been. They do have guys, and I look at a guy like Max Pacioretty, who seems to finally have broken out of something. He had a whole bunch of games where he wasn't scoring. Thomas Buchanan hasn't scored a point since the Civil War. You have certain guys who just aren't producing the way they need to. Alex Galchenyuk, I think, needs to take a step up and step forward that he hasn't quite taken. He's getting better, but it's just not enough. It seems like they're counting on him for more. Right. So, as much as it is the absence of Price, I look at certain guys and I say, hey, this offense has got to step up a little, and not to say that they're, the Dallas Stars. I mean, they're not a phenomenal offense, but certainly they're better than they've shown in the last several games. They have guys who can produce, who can score, they can move the puck around. They're a good skating team, and I feel like they've gotten away from that a little bit. Maybe it's because they feel like they need to get into more of a shell without Price. Maybe that's part of it. But, you look at guys and you say, okay, if we're not going to have Carey Price,
there's no question.
There's
we need to score a little more. We need to play to our
Hey, Daniel, sorry to interrupt. We actually are up against a break, so we got to run. But thanks for being on the program. It's been too long. Everyone, check out Daniel Freeman on Facebook. My hockey man, great to have you back on, and we'll be in touch. So thanks so much, Daniel.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, coming up next, we'll be talking baseball with Radio Mike after this. All right, back here on Louis Live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Of course, you can find us all on Facebook. Andy Gershman, Ari Louis, Joshua Halickman. And we're going to talk baseball now. Very interesting year, 2015. A little bit of everything, including a return trip to the World Series for the New York Mets. On the line right now, New York Yankees fan, but turned Mets fan for the Fall Classic, Radio Mike. What up, Radio Mike?
How are you?
How you doing? That's what Andy said. Andy said that you just became a Mets fan for the World Series, that you really don't like him so much. What do you say to Andy? Andy's here. Tell him.
Andy, first of all, mazel tov on your son's bar mitzvah.
Well, thank you.
See, he's being nice and smooth.
Let me tell you, first and foremost, thank you very much.
Let me tell you, you are 100% correct. I'm a front runner.
He admitted it. He's the only one who admitted it.
I liked it. I liked the Yankees a lot more. I was rooting for the Mets during the World Series because they are a New York team. I did break the news when Murphy was making all those errors in the 8th, 9th inning, and I think that was Game 4
Right,
in
live on
the
my
World
show.
Series.
Yep.
And, on your show. And it was, I really wanted the Mets to win, and, I was disappointed they didn't. But, that's the way it goes. They just didn't have enough relief pitching to put them through.
You know what, Radio Mike? I have to admit, as a Braves fan, I went to see the Nationals in the playoffs, so I'm not much better. But it's the local team. I don't blame you. But let me ask you this: do you think the Mets are 2 years ago Kansas City Royals, just 1 year ahead of their time in the World Series? Do you think that once these arms get a little stronger and things kind of go the whole year, and because really All-Star break on, it was just unreal what the Mets did. I mean, do you think that they are 1 year ahead of schedule?
I don't know if they're ahead of schedule. I mean, they have great arms coming up, but they don't have the great bullpens like the other teams in baseball have. You can see what the Yankees just did. They have three of arguably the best closers now in baseball. Kansas City, they have like 5 great relief pitchers. The Mets basically have Jerry Familia, and that's about it. Question is whether Mejia will come back from his suspension, whether Bobby Parnell can come back from his neck injury or whatever. And another thing that the Mets have really not done in the off season, they don't have a replacement for Cespedes. They were playing good baseball before, but they kept on losing 3-2, 2-1, 1-0, and now that they don't have that extra hitter in the middle of their lineup, what are they going to do for offense again? And they did nothing in the off season to help their 2016 year. So whether they're ahead or behind, I think they're going to be taking a step back, even with the great pitching. And this pitching, if you keep on losing 2-1, you get frustrated after a while.
Right.
And I think it's really the Mets have really done a disservice to their fans once again.
You mentioned the Yankees and their closers, abundance of closers. If they give up 7 runs in the first 6 innings, does it matter how many closers you have?
Yeah, but the thing is that the starting pitching last year was not all that bad. I mean, they have Tanaka. Nova's coming back from an injury. Evaldi was pretty good. They have Severino. He's a rookie. He had a very, very good season. So their starting pitching wasn't that bad. Well, maybe CeCe Sabathia wasn't that good, but once he got the knee brace, and then he was pitching pretty well after that. So they're not really giving up 6 or 7 runs per start, and I think they've much improved over last year.
You know what I like to talk? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
The New York Mets, they definitely, I believe that they were a year ahead of the plan. But the bottom line is that they set a certain level now of expectations to their fans. They're going to have to do something, especially to replace Cespedes. There's no question in my mind. But if you look across the city right now with the New York Yankees, they just bring in a player like Chapman to close, which is definitely on the controversial side. what are the Yankees going to have to do to keep up with the Mets? Can you imagine I'm actually saying that? What are they going to have to do to keep up with the New York Mets? Because the New York Mets kind of stole their thunder last year. Plenty of empty seats at Yankee Stadium. What is going to have to happen for the Pinstripes to keep up with the orange and blue and white?
Well, I think, they now have a second baseman in Castro. He's, a good second baseman. That should help a lot to fill a void that Robinson Cano left. At first base, they have either Bird or Teixeira. Between the two, that should, really be good over there. The closing pitching, I think even the starting pitching is half decent. They're not that far away from where the Mets are. I mean, the Mets, you keep on saying it, the Mets starting pitching might be their best in baseball. But after that, how much more do they have? I mean, their defense is not really great. Their hitting is certainly subpar. Of course, Daniel Murphy during the playoffs went berserk. I mean, he hit more home runs than he did for in a whole season.
Right.
But that was a real fluke, and they might not re-sign him either. I don't think the Yankees are going to be chasing the Mets that much, and then maybe for the headlines at the beginning, they might have to do something, but I don't think it's going to be like the Yankees are going to win 40% of the games and the Mets are going to win 70% of the games. I don't think that the disparity is that big.
All right, Radio Mike, last question. Sorry for the short segment. We know I'll give you more time next time. I think the coolest thing with the Mets is the fact that Madoff ripped them off, but it actually worked out for them. It was an advantage for them. Instead of getting the high-priced free agent guys, they started from grassroots, from the farm level. Just talk a bit about that for about a minute, how cool that is. Madoff screwed them, and it helped them.
Well, yes, he definitely screwed them. But, getting all these draft picks and, you get lucky with a pitcher because you never really know 100% which pitcher is going to pan out, which won't, and they panned out with a whole bunch of great pitchers. And if they would sign these guys, then the question is everyone thinks that they're not going to be able to sign all of them. They might be able to sign one or two. They have a great future. But, you really need 25 guys on the team to win, and the Mets don't have 25 guys. They have more like 7 or 8.
All right, Radio Mike breaking down the New York Mets' success, again, World Series trip this season, first time since 2000, not bad. Radio Mike, thanks for being on the program today. Appreciate it. Great job as always.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll take a break. On the other side, we'll be talking the NBA with Mr. Joe Robbins. This is Louis Live, and we'll be back after this. All right, back here on Louis Live. Thanks for joining us. End of the year 2015 special. Big year for the NBA. A little of everything. An Israeli coach in the NBA Finals. LeBron loses again in the NBA Finals. And Steph Curry hasn't really missed a shot. Here to discuss that, OMG Poetry's main man, CEO, co-founder of that, Joe Robbins. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Ari. Always good to be on, and especially great to be here for this year-end show.
Yes, indeed. So my first question is about Kobe Bryant, because we talked about this when he retired. Some people say top 10 player, etc., compared to Michael Jordan. He's no Michael Jordan. There is one thing he does better than Michael Jordan. He is a better closer than Michael Jordan. MJ has more MVPs, a better scorer, better passer, way better defender. But I think at the end of the game, if I had to choose between Kobe or MJ, I'd go with Kobe. What do you think?
I agree with you. Something the NBA.
By the way, Joe, when you said that,
my goodness,
Josh and Andy both fell out of their chairs.
I love Kobe. Don't get me wrong. I love Kobe Bryant. I love him. I think he's an amazing closer. But my God, you're talking about Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player.
You know
what?
Michael passed. John Paxson hit a shot, and so did Steve Kerr. Everybody knew Kobe was shooting. He wasn't passing the ball. But good, Joe. Make your argument for Kobe because you agree with me.
Right. So I agree with Ari. Again, this is nothing to take away from Michael Jordan. Definitely the greatest to ever play the game and infinitely better than Kobe for the reasons you mentioned and everyone else. Having said that, Kobe Bryant is one of the most clutch players in NBA history, and one thing that teams always look for when they look for superstars, we've seen it for Melo, LeBron, Durant, they look for the guy who they know is going to shoot the ball, whether 10 guys are on him.
Yeah,
he's
LeBron
gonna
got
be the one
criticized.
shooting.
LeBron got criticized all the time. Oh, he always passes the ball. He doesn't have it in his veins. He's not a closer. He's not a true guy. No one ever said about Kobe. Even when he was 18, he launched shots. They were air balls, but he still did it.
He's still launching air balls.
Well, now he is because it's the end of his career.
Okay, wait a minute.
All right. Yes.
Better closer than Omri Caspi? Did you see that? 36?
All right, so
I mean, come on, double high. How could you do that, double high? I mean, how does that happen?
Our man Joe was at the game talking to Lave Divac, the legend himself. What did Lave say about Omri Moshe?
He said that it was nothing special, and what he meant by that was he went on to elaborate, right, as all great general managers in basketball speak do. He said it was nothing special. He said he's playing with a lot of confidence. This is what he does. He hits shots, and we've seen in George Karl's system, we talked about it at the end of last basketball season, how he averaged 15 points down the stretch when he was getting expanded minutes. He's having the best year of his career. He's worked himself into the starting lineup, averaging career highs across the board. And going into last night, Caspi was top 10 in the NBA in three-point shooting. He was number 6, and then he exploded for 9 for 12 from the field and went punch for punch with Steph Curry. So while 36, the career-high incredible game, isn't something we're going to see every night from him, it was definitely emblematic of the season he's having, and Vlade Divac wanted to focus on that confidence and just how comfortable Omri is in the system. And one thing that Omri has really tried to work on, in addition to his defense and the other things to become a well-rounded player in the NBA, one thing specifically that he's tried to work on after his time with the Rockets and the tough stay in Cleveland was his three-point shooting, so he could become a true small forward in the NBA system. He's a sort of a 3-4 tweener because of his athleticism, but his long-range shot wasn't there, and now it clearly is. And not only
he drained 9 3-pointers last night. He drained 9 3-pointers last night, which is a tied record with Mike Bibby on that. And Omri Caspi has been an absolute star this season, Joe. Just want to bring you over to the New York side for a second. How about Kristaps Porzingis? Who would have ever thought that the guy that was booed almost out of New York City, the second his name was announced at the draft, is now probably talked about as being the next great New York Knicks player, where they were talking about also trading the likes of Carmelo Anthony to build around this guy. That's an amazing, amazing story for this young fellow.
Definitely. He's been incredible, and it's crazy to think that, Karl Anthony Towns as a rookie is averaging a double-double, and he might not win Rookie of the Year because of what Porzingis is doing, not just as a rookie, but for the Knicks. Like you said, he was booed, but to be fair, most Knicks draft picks are, but to a different degree than most. He was almost booed off the stage, and Adam Silver even said to him, Commissioner Adam Silver even said to him, "They're booing me, not you," but they're booing Chris Stubbs.
I should hope so.
He's just come out, and he does everything. He defends, he hits threes, he's tenacious on the boards, and it's almost like what New York City saw with Jeremy Lin. The difference is Porzingis is a kid who's still coming into his own and has already shown that he has what it takes to become a superstar. And you mentioned some of the trade rumors about building around Porzingis and rebuilding the team around him, and there have been some very real debates about whether he's taken over for Melo as the most popular guy on the Knicks, and I think in a lot of ways he has. So Phil Jackson was roundly and soundly booed for the pick, and they thought it was a guy who would take years to develop. Even if he turned out to be very good, he would take years to develop on a team that needed an impact player right away.
Yeah, it looks like Philip, the Zen Master, knew what he was doing. Joe, last question for you. We started the segment with MJ sort of. We'll end it with MJ sort of. MJ's 96 Bulls versus your Warriors of this year. I know what you're going to say. I still would take MJ's 96 team because of the Dennis Rodman factor, the defense, the rebounds. I think you're going to take the Warriors. If so, make your case, make your argument.
So I can't pick. What I will say is they would definitely play a good game. And
he's being politically correct.
Series.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm scared to go against MJ twice in one segment.
Yeah, MJ's ghost will come back. All right, Joe,
He's not dead, by the way.
Well, but he hasn't played in the NBA in, 12 years. He's still talking about all the time. Yeah. All right, Joe, we got to run. Thanks for being on the program. Check Joe out, OMG Poetry on Facebook and Joseph Robbins on Facebook. Thanks so much, Joe. Be well.
Thank you, guys. Be well.
All right. Coming up next, it's going to be soccer or wrestling or both with Mr. Mark Gordon. This is Louis Live. We'll be back after this. Really couldn't think of a better intro for our next guest. We don't know what he'll talk about, but we know he talks too much. The one, the only, I'm just kidding. He's just a friend of ours. He is the former host of a soccer show on Israel Sports Radio, Mr. Mark Gordon. Mark, what up?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So there's some confusion here. We have a couple of questions. Are we talking wrestling or world soccer? What would you like to talk about?
Soccer. Yeah, I was supposed to send you some questions because you know nothing about soccer.
I know a little bit, but Andy thought you were talking wrestling. I know you're a big wrestling fan, but you like soccer. You actually think soccer's like the best sport ever, right?
Drinking.
Drinking is the best sport. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to hand you off to the Sports Rabbi Josh Halickman. He's got some soccer questions for you. Josh, take it away.
Wait a minute. What about my Birmingham Aston Villa? Are they playing each other anytime soon?
Birmingham, Alabama?
Isn't there a Birmingham or something like that in England somewhere?
Yeah.
All right, Mark.
Don't tell the Queen I didn't know the name of the team.
Mark, we've got to start off with the question of the day. Louis van Gaal, what's the over-under on how many days he remains as the manager of Manchester United? And 2, over-under, what are the chances of our friend Jose Mourinho taking over that post?
I think Van Gaal is on borrowed time. He should have gone Sunday. But with the Christmas fixtures in England, you've got 3 games within a week. There's no time really to put a replacement in. I think Man United are being cautious. They're going to wait possibly another 2 weeks until the FA Cup. If Man United don't perform in the FA Cup, then he's definitely gone. I don't think they're going to give him the January transfer window. I think they're going to want a new manager in place to revitalise the team. So I think we're talking days, if not a couple of weeks. He's not a million miles away from the Champions League spots. United, embarrassingly, have already gone out of the Champions League this year and in the Europa League. They went out of the League Cup in the 4th round, although Van Gaal said that's a sign of improvement because they went out in the 3rd round last year. But, generally, I think it's ticking and there's not long left. As to Mourinho, he's available. I don't think he would be United's first choice. Everywhere Mourinho goes, he lasts about 3 years maximum. United have a great tradition with Ferguson where he was there 30 years. They'll be looking for someone for the long term. I think short term they'll probably pick Giggs, and I think they'll try and compete for Guardiola, who will work with the whole club, with the youth team, who has a much better temperament. But it remains to be seen.
You don't think the Pep's going to already have it all signed, sealed, and delivered to Man City at this point?
I think that was the original plan. I think he's holding the ace with Manchester City, but I think he's going to hold out until the summer. I think, there are 2 teams, if not 3 teams, competing for him. You've still got Chelsea, who have got Hiddink in place until the summer.
What team is that? What team was that?
Chelsea.
Hold it. They're still in the Premier League?
Just about, but they're having a nightmare.
3 points off of relegation zone, I might add.
Yeah. The Christmas miracle in England is Leicester, who last Christmas were bottom, this Christmas are top. That doesn't happen anywhere in European football anymore.
Only in England could that happen. I mean,
that's what I was saying. Ari.
Yeah, right. We just talked about this. I mean, we're really excited about
Leicester,
what you
right?
said. Yeah, Leicester. Yeah,
they've been talking about that all the way to Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, Leicester got promoted a couple of seasons ago. They've had an investment from Thailand. The people who own the Thailand duty-free stores have bought them. They're a stable club, but not in the league of Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, any of these clubs. But I think it's a sign that the amount of money in the Premier League now, next year's contract, I think is £500 million a year to be split between the clubs.
Do you believe Leicester will win the title this year? Will win the?
No.
You don't believe
Man City.
I think January is usually the time where the big clubs come into these clubs that are doing well.
Mm-hmm.
They turn the heads of the star players like Vardy and Mahrez. Maybe one of them will go and Leicester will try and make a profit. But even if they don't, you'll have two unsettled players who won't have the form at the beginning of the season. And, the likes of Arsenal, I think, 1 point behind them.
Underachievers.
I think Arsenal may have taken them over last
No,
time.
they're ahead of them now, but they really choked it up a couple of days ago on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean Arsenal should
they
be way
had a
ahead.
piss-poor performance and they lost 3-0.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal are top, and they're still waiting on Sanchez to come back. City hopefully will come good. They've got Aguero coming back to fitness, Silva coming back to fitness, De Bruyne and Sterling starting to play well. They're missing a decent defender. Mangala is looking like a £40 million waste. Otamendi hasn't settled in yet, and Company managed 9 minutes on his comeback before hobbling off injured. So City, if they can sort their defence out, will also challenge them. I don't think Leicester will hold out the long term. Tottenham, I think, are a surprise package this year, and I think could stay in the top four.
The Yid Army?
Pardon? Yeah, the very quietly. I think they've lost 2 games all season, Tottenham.
Hey, I've got 2 questions about Leicester.
Okay. Is it near Birmingham?
No. First, do they have discounted cigarettes and alcohol at their concessions?
No.
Well, if they're owned by the duty-free guy, that would only be fair.
No, but you can pick up a stereo at a very nice price.
And if John Cena was on Leicester...
There we go. Wrestling after all.
I had to get a wrestling question. Would they be a better team?
No, because Cena sucks.
Can't see me.
Yeah.
That's a great way to end a segment.
Yeah.
Right?
We know John Cena's listening, and but Mark Gordon said that, so you can find him on Facebook. But don't find us. We didn't say it. He's on the program.
When the WWE come to Israel, then I'll start being worried.
I think you have nothing to worry about.
It's like the Queen. It isn't going to happen for a while.
Yeah, I think the Queen will protect you. All right. Well, great seeing you yesterday. Thanks for being on the program. We got a little soccer and wrestling, so check out Mark Gordon on Facebook. Mark, thanks for the time. Great job as always.
You guys.
Yeah, be well, man.
Mark.
All right, good
Bye-bye.
stuff. Mark Gordon, everyone. Quick break. On the other side, we'll talk a little Israel lacrosse coming up. And again, check us out on Facebook, Ari Louis, Andy Gershman, Joshua Halickman. We'll be back right after this. And we're back here on Louis Live. Thank you for joining us. We are very excited to have on our guest from Israel Lacrosse. This is very exciting. For those of you who do not know, Israel Lacrosse is having tryouts to see who's going to make the national team, and they have a few Americans on the line right now. A young gentleman plays forward. He's a freshman at the University of Miami. Let's give a warm Louis Live welcome to Jacob Milner. Jacob, how you doing out there?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. So did you ever think that one day you'd be trying out for the national lacrosse team here in Israel?
Absolutely not. I had never even heard of Israeli lacrosse. I had never heard that there were even tryouts, that there was a service trip. And then one day I was approached by my coach who, got involved in the program, and he said that there's this great opportunity to go out to Israel for a few days and try out for the team and see the country a little bit. And it's been incredible so far, and I'm so excited for the opportunity.
It's pretty cool. So what kind of things are you going to be involved with the tryout? What are they looking for? Tell us technical stuff. How much you have to run, how much you have to shoot, how much you have to lift. Is it like NFL Combine stuff?
So right now we've had, up to this point, we've had 2 practices just with the American kids so far. We haven't joined forces with the Israelis yet. But so far it's been very intense, very pressing. We're playing lacrosse at a high level here, and I think that they want the best of the best, the guys who are going to work the hardest, the guys who are going to train the hardest in the off season. And I think that shows with the coaching style that we've seen so far and with the players that we have. I mean, we have some great talent, some great coaches, and I think, the training that we're going to go through over the next few days and the practices that we've seen so far, I mean, it's clear that it's a very intense, very enduring process that we're going to go through. So we're all very excited for it and for the next few days to come.
It certainly is. Jacob, I want to introduce you to one of my co-hosts this evening, Andy Gershman. Andy, go ahead.
Jacob, how many Americans are involved right now?
Right now, there's 35 on our trip, actually, 9 of which are girls who are not trying out for their team this year. They had the tryouts last year. So there's mid-20s in terms of the guys that are trying out this year.
So all of you are Division I players, or, I mean, how did I know you can only speak for yourself, but how did you guys kind of come together as a group? So
the majority of the kids actually are in high school. A lot of them juniors and seniors who are looking to play lacrosse in college. I know a lot of them are looking into Division I schools, looking into Division III schools. But I think most of the kids heard about this opportunity from whether it was their coaches, whether it was, I don't know, maybe some marketing in the U.S. where they saw Israeli lacrosse. But I think everyone, saw this opportunity and jumped on as soon as they can. And so it's a great mix of kids. We do have some freshmen in high school, and we have some freshmen in college. So, there's kids from all over the United States, and it's a great range of kids that we have, and we're all loving it so far. And everyone's, we're all so close already, and we're all just enjoying spending time with each other in this incredible country.
Now, are you from the Miami/Florida area originally?
I actually am not. I am from right outside of New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay, so that makes sense. I was wondering where the lacrosse thing came from.
Yeah,
I mean, we need to push a little northeast.
A few of my buddies are here too, so it's been a lot of fun for us.
That's great.
I got to tell you, Jacob, we've worked with a lot of sporting leagues in Israel. Some are not so professional. Let's just call it like it is. I've never seen that Israel lacrosse, a well-oiled machine. Be honest. When you're going to Israel, you're probably thinking, I don't know what's going to go on here. I know how things are going to be run. How have you been surprised or not surprised with the way things have been run with Israel lacrosse?
No, absolutely. I agree. Coming into it, America is, the hotbed for lacrosse, America and Canada, and you don't really think much of other countries when you think of lacrosse. So coming into Israel, I was definitely skeptical. I definitely, wasn't sure how it was going to be, but, right off the bat, they gave us great gear. The itinerary has been great so far. And then, like I said, once we show up to practice, we see the coaching that we have. We see the talent that they bring. I'm sure the talent from Israel that they bring is going to be just as good as the talent from America. And it's been great so far. I mean, it's very organized, very well done. We've been playing at some great facilities. We've been doing great drills that the coaches of the Israeli teams have been leading us through. So, I mean, it's been incredible so far, and it's exceeded all my expectations, and I couldn't be happier right now.
All right, last question. Goal, obviously, is to make the team. So let's assume you make the team. What are the goals there? What happens? Do you go back to the States and come back to Israel later on in the summer? Tell us logistically what would happen.
So I actually don't know all the details and the logistics in terms of after the trial process, but my general understanding is that you make the team. They have a few American spots. Of course, the team will be mostly Israeli kids. So if you make the team as an American, I think the plan is that they are going to bring the Israeli kids over to America, or over to Canada, actually, because that's where the World Games are being held. They're going to bring all the Israelis over to Canada a few weeks before the World Games, and then bring the Americans who do make the team up to Canada to practice with them and meet them and kind of get acclimated all together as a group and get that chemistry going and, basically prepare for the World Games in the summer. So I think it'll be very exciting. And I'm obviously hoping to meet the team, and I think, whoever does is going to have a blast, and whoever does is going to, enjoy the opportunity. And even if I don't make the team, just being out here and being in Israel and having this opportunity is just incredible. So I'm just excited to be here.
It really is. It's really an amazing thing. And a special thanks to Scott East for setting up this interview. We really appreciate it. And Jacob, we appreciate your time. We know you're busy. Good luck, man. I hope you make the team, and I hope we get to interview you as a member of Israel's national lacrosse team.
I sure hope so. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jacob. Be well. All right, quick break. On the other side is David Doobie Pick. We'll talk some Israeli basketball with him. This is Louis Live, and we'll be back after this. All right, well, we know Doobie's a very busy man, apparently very busy because he didn't pick up the phone call. So we'll try to get Doobie on later, or we won't. So in this segment, we're just going to chat. We could chat what Doobie would have chatted about.
We could, but we can just talk about sports in general.
Wait, we're going to...
Is really basketball for 5 minutes? Yeah, that probably. I mean, just that would really be Josh kind of talking on his own.
Let's just schmooze.
Yes. So, I guess one of the interesting things, what would be the biggest story 2015 of all the sports?
Of all sports?
Wow, that's a pretty...
Well, Sports Illustrated thought it was Serena Williams.
I disagree with that choice. I still think the Warriors start, it's the best start in NBA history. I think that's what it is.
Let me ask you this, as long as we're going to talk about the Warriors. I'll get your opinion, because I think it's wrong. Luke Walton.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Gets zero credit
for wins. Who cares?
No, but I think it's interesting that... I just think it's interesting that a guy fills in and gets nothing, but yet if you're an interim coach, you get wins.
Right.
So why isn't he an interim coach then? Explain. I don't really understand.
There must be some kind of
what's going
deal
on
with the... Who knows? Just... I don't know.
I mean, it's a strange thing.
It's one of those
strange,
odd rulings. I mean, it's nothing to do with unions because there's no coaches union.
Right.
Really.
I mean, he could get the easiest ring since Barry Switzer, but, that's neither here nor there.
He was a great coach, Barry Switzer.
Yeah, and Jimmy Johnson handed him a ring.
Well, as we know, there were only
a
three
great coach that knows writing calls.
There were only 3 players on the Cowboys team.
All right, can we just go back to a previous segment, Mark?
Yes.
He mentioned... something that pains me. That
Lester?
No, not Mark Gordon. It was from Arizona.
Mark Asher.
Yeah. He mentioned that if Carolina wins, then the Cardinals lose on purpose. Is that what he said?
No, he said that. Oh God, I know what's coming. No, what he meant to say was they're not going to lose on purpose. They're not really going to try to win the last game because they don't need to win it. Why risk injury? It's not going to be your conspiracy theory about the Colts losing on purpose 5 years ago.
Okay, but here's my problem with it. Again, it could reseed the playoffs.
Because of who they're playing at the end.
Because they're playing Seattle. So Seattle picks up a win. Green Bay loses.
Right. That's not fair to Green Bay.
Or it recedes. It's an awful, awful thing. And I can tell you the Redskins will probably do the same thing against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys will win, and then the Redskins fans will say, we played our second string.
I don't know what you could do about it, though. You can't make a team try its hardest if they don't want to.
I think you have to look back at one of the greatest last games of the season that really, quote-unquote, didn't matter. Giants, Patriots.
Yeah, the last game, because that was dumb for the Patriots tried to win, and that actually was smart to do that. It gave them momentum, but the fact they only won by 3 points, that kind of helped the Giants.
And the Giants actually did play that game to win.
Right.
And it was questionable.
Right.
It was questionable if they were going to. Were they going to do it? Were they not going to do it? And it ended up being the right thing to do. I think if you look back at games where they could have easily played second stringers and nobody would have said boo about it.
Right, but when the Colts threw the game 5 years ago, the Jets got in the playoffs.
And it almost haunted them, even though it didn't happen. Well, I would say,
the Jets went too far in the playoffs.
Josh's point, I mean, you aren't really supposed to play a game kind of half in the middle because you're more likely to get injured.
Right.
But to play the second string guys that don't play so much, and you might need them in the playoffs, I don't think that's so unfair. I don't have a problem with that.
Especially in a league where you're only playing 16 games, the injury factor is tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, you can... there's a reason why there's only 16 games a year.
Right.
And
they always try to move it to 18, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah. There's a reason why there's only 16 games, and there's a good reason why, because the players' bodies just can't hold up to that. And we can go into the whole concussion. The movie just came out, but we're not going to start going there.
Let me ask you this: all right, who's the backup quarterback for the Cardinals?
I have no idea.
Okay, so you have no idea. So let's say that
I don't think even Asher knows who it is.
Okay, so is that last game is in Arizona, I believe?
Yeah.
Okay, so. Hardworking Joe the plumber,
whoever it is,
has now paid $500 to take his family to this game to see. I have no idea. Play backup. Okay, and then so I have no idea is now there, and top that off with Seattle wins, reseeds the playoffs Do you think all we hear about is integrity of the game.
Well,
does that challenge the integrity of the game? If they've reseeded, is it fair to the Redskins or whoever has to play the higher seed there?
The way I would answer it is you never know what's going to happen because it's a bit of a gamble. The guy that buys the ticket for the last game of the season could see a playoff game because of the Cardinals, let's say, we're at 9 wins. If they win, they're in, they're out, they're out. That game is more expensive. And also, as far as reseeding, you get breaks in the schedule all the time. Sometimes you play a team that is completely injured. Is that fair? And then the other team plays them with their full strength. So these things happen. We would love to continue. I hate to finish on the last point, but we got to take a break.
Who says you get the last point?
Well, you can take the last. Well, we have to. You can get it later.
Because he's Ari Louis.
Yes.
That's right. This is his show.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to have a surprise guest, and Andy's going to kick out of this one, I believe, as long as he picks up the phone. So, surprise guest after this. This is Louis Live. We'll be back in a moment.
You gotta think about you. I just can't live without you. I really want you, Eleanor, near me. Your looks intoxicate me. Even though your folks hate me, there's no one like you, Eleanor, really. Eleanor G, I think you're swell, and you really do me well. You're my pride and joy, etc. Eleanor, can I take the time to ask you to speak your mind? Tell me that you love me better. I really think you're groovy. Let's go out to a movie. What do you say now, Eleanor, can we? They'll turn the lights way down low, and maybe we won't watch the show. I think I love you.
All right, back here on Louis Live. Again, you can find all three of us on Facebook, Ari Louis, Andy Gershman, and Joshua Halickman. Joshua Halickman, excuse me. Now, I seriously didn't do it on purpose. I just had some coffee.
Don't worry about it.
All right. So anyways, I don't know where to begin. I guess I'll just kind of set things up. This has been a very big year at UFC. Ronda Rousey losing, some guy's a pothead, and there's this new villain on the scene. On the line right now, a good Jewish boy from the South, Andy Gershman's favorite UFC fighter of all time, Mr. Rory Singer. Rory, what's up, my man?
Not too much. How y'all doing today?
We're doing great. You know, Andy hasn't spoken to you in a long time because when you were on my program, Andy was back in the States. He has a lot to talk to you about, a lot of questions. So, I guess, but before we get to that, I want to start with Ronda Rousey's loss. How shocked were you? She was a big favorite coming in. That knockout to Holly Holm. Holly Holm, obviously a better boxer. That's kind of what set everything up. Give us your analysis of that fight, the big upset loss about a month ago.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how shocked I was. I didn't necessarily have any real idea. I didn't, unfortunately, get to watch Holly's earlier fights, but certainly I saw some footage from her pre-UFC days and knew that she was a big 135er, knew that she had some good stand-up. When she came out and started throwing her hands and her feet, and basically when she was able to defend the clinch, able to get back up, and able to defend some of the jiu-jitsu within the workings of those few things, I realized that Ronda was going to lose that fight at that point moving forward, that her game plan to try and outbox her inability to take her down, because she doesn't have any kind of wrestling game. It's all clinch judo-based. Realized that was the end. Her game plan to put her on the fence or to clinch her up and take her down. When that failed, you realize that Holly was going to outstrike her and just pick her apart, and that's what she did. Ronda's lack of head movement, lack of real good boxing, you saw that in her YouTube videos and different clips, very, very limited stand-up knowledge. So at that point forward, I wasn't surprised at all to see Holly dismantle her and win the title.
All right, Andy Gershman's ready. Go ahead.
Right. Two questions for you, actually, and it's good to talk to you again after all these years. First question is, does a rematch actually go off? I mean, I know it's scheduled for, I believe, summertime, but is it actually going to happen?
I mean, I believe it will happen. The numbers were too big for it not to happen. So that's the business side of it. Those numbers are huge. There are certainly probably a majority of fans that are going to feel that was sort of an outlier decision that Ronda will figure it out. She'll come back and she'll be better and bigger and stronger and blah, blah, blah. So I believe the rematch happens because it's good business. And at the end of the day, the UFC is a business, is an entertainment brand, and it's going to make them a lot of money. Do I believe that anything changes? No. I don't think that in the span of the 6 months, considering that there's got to be at least 2 months where Ronda can't even get touched. Who knows where her head's at mentally, physically, physiologically. She shouldn't be in the gym even sparring for at least 2 months. She shouldn't really be in the gym sparring for quite a bit longer. All the evidence has proven that, especially when you look at football players. But I don't think anything changes. Ronda's kickboxing doesn't get better in that span of time to compete or to compare with Holly's. Holly's a big 135er. I don't think Ronda's going to be able to take her down in a rematch. I don't think she's going to learn a good double leg. So I don't necessarily think anything changes. But business-wise, entertainment-wise, numbers-wise, and money-wise, then it should happen. I don't know if it does or doesn't, but it certainly should.
Right. And speaking of its entertainment, recently Chuck Liddell says that he'll tolerate Conor McGregor as long as he's still winning. Is he good for the sport?
It's Conor's great for the sport. First of all, whether you like his talk or not, at the end of the day, he is an honorable and respectful fighter before and after fights. I don't care what he does in between. I don't care what he does to sell fights. He's longtime coached by a very close friend of mine, John Kavanaugh, part of Straight Black Gym for years. I fought with John on a card in South Africa in November of 2001. So I've known John for a long, long time, consider him a really good friend. I had the opportunity and the pleasure of meeting Conor after his win and winning the title. He's great for the sport. He's brought an entire country. He brought 10,000 fans from Ireland to the MGM. That's huge. His numbers are huge. Again, this is an entertainment industry. UFC is about entertainment and about making money, because if they were in business for a different reason, then they probably wouldn't be in business. He is a fantastic martial artist. He lives and breathes just fighting and getting better and everything that's encompassed within, this sport that we all love. He's great for the sport. He's great for the UFC. And I see him being a champ for a lot longer than just a 13-second knockout.
That's for sure. I think he's here to stay, and he might be the new face with Ronda Rousey losing. Time will tell certainly on that. It's interesting that Ronda Rousey was the face, and you don't see too many female faces of an entire sport, but that's how big Ronda Rousey was. Last question for you. Again, sorry for the short segment, but Nick Diaz's suspension due to marijuana, I want to get your thoughts about it. I personally do not like the drug. I don't advocate it. I don't know if I feel comfortable for a guy being suspended and for the length of suspension, the amount of money he'll lose, and the fact that this is part of the prime of his career. Let's get your thoughts. Is the suspension to Nick Diaz fair?
5-year suspension is obscene for something that is legal in quite a few states in this country. The fact that Israel is leading the charge in marijuana research, shows that it's something that should be allowed when you have hundreds of thousands of people dying every day due to nicotine and alcohol. So whether you approve of the drug or not, to disprove of the drug, in my opinion, is to take a false stance on something. But that's neither here nor there. To suspend someone for 5 years for something as inane as marijuana is ridiculous. When the guy who was tested positive in that same fight for naldosterone was only suspended for a year. I don't care about his previous offenses. I don't believe there's anything in the books that say we're going to add these offenses up and then basically shut your career down, because 5 years for him is the end of his career. And to do that to someone after finding them 30% of their last purse is egregious.
It is, and you see guys get, to me, steroids it should be criminal if you're in a UFC fight. We talked about this before. I mean, you're talking about not hitting a baseball, talking about punch someone in the face, and to have that advantage to be 30-40% stronger, that should be criminal. Tell me, is smoking pot before a fight, is that a plus?
But how do we know he was even high before the fight,
right.
or that just wasn't metabolized in the system? So
I think it's absurd. Like you said, Roy, I mean, it is legal in a number of states, and possession, look, it's going to become a greater issue in the U.S. in all realms of employment. But 5 years is absurd. It's absolutely absurd. I mean, you've taken this guy's career out of, away basically for marijuana of all things.
Right, and sometimes not only is it legal in some states, even the states where it's illegal, sometimes it's a misdemeanor. Usually it is, depending on the amount.
Right.
So it's insane. I hope somehow they can appeal it and get it reduced. Really, I don't think it should be suspended at all, or if it is, under 6 months. Anyways, we got to run. I know you hate the short segments. I apologize. Please don't punch me in the face, but we'll try to get you on another time. I know Andy was very happy to get you back on, so that's why we made it happen. Roy, thanks so much, my man. Be well. We'll speak soon. And Jew Power.
Thanks. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
I'd love to come back on whenever.
Absolutely. Jewish Power in mixed martial arts world. We appreciate it. Thanks, Roy. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, we'll talk a little Israeli soccer. BBC World Service correspondent Raphael Geller on the other side. This is Louis Live. We'll be back after this. All right, what a cool segment. Coming up on this segment, we have four of us together talking a little Israeli soccer. On the line right now, BBC World Service correspondent and vice writer. Back to the program, Raphael Geller. Raphael, how you doing out there?
Good. How you three doing? The Three Musketeers.
Well, you're the fourth one for this segment. So let's talk about the game that happened last week. Number one versus number two. You were very excited. We were texting each other about it. What happened last week?
Well, I think the score was 2-1 for Hapoel Beersheva. Maccabi didn't play very well. I thought it was one of the poorest games they've had in a long time.
Rafael, they dominated the play. They just couldn't put the ball in the net, and they didn't have shots. And I'm just playing devil's advocate right now because I don't know. We both heard what went on after the match, where everybody was saying, "Oh, we played well," but the bottom line is they lost the game because they didn't score enough goals.
Yeah, obviously, and you need to score goals. And again, I also wasn't that impressed with Beersheva. I thought they were also average too. Mm-hmm. I thought the game in general was a very average game. A lot of hype, pretty boring. Yeah, there were 3 goals, but pretty boring. Not that much good play.
Agreed.
And I think a lot of it was focused on the whole drama of their manager. Because at that point it was very unclear what was happening, but it was already in the news that he was leaving, staying, and I think that was bothering a lot of the players.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, what I love about, I guess, the opposite of the European sports is you have this big line of this being the game of the year and this and that and all the hype and the promos and this. In America, they have it in a different way. They just use different words. But, the game of the year, like a lot of the players said, the score doesn't mean anything. Yeah, Beersheva's ahead 3 points, but there's still about 65, 70 points left, and teams are going to drop a lot of points during that time. And Beersheva lost to Maccabi the first time they played, and they're probably going to play, another 3 more times.
Yeah, well, they're going to play at least twice, and then maybe in the cup. So they're definitely going to be playing games. You know what? You actually bring up an interesting point because on Christmas Day, Golden State played Cleveland, right? So that's a game of the year type of matchup because they're only going to play twice during the course of the year. And Maccabi Tel Aviv, Beersheva was ticketed as the match of the year. How do you feel? Is there more to prove in the NBA? Do you think there's more personal aspects of, LeBron and Steph Curry trying to play each other up, seeing who the better player is, playing one-on-one, where you have in Maccabi Tel Aviv, you have, obviously Eleni Barda for Hapoel Beersheva, Eran Zahavi. What do you think about that whole issue of the game of the year? And I agree with you. On one hand, there are plenty of points, and let's be honest, Cleveland Golden State game is not a very important game in the main scheme of things, especially when you're playing 82 games.
Yeah, I think you have this new phenomenon of Curry against James because Durant was injured and his teams, I don't want to say are struggling, but they haven't been able to make the extra push, especially last year, having such a poor season because of injuries. But yeah, it's obviously it's the media's job, and TV needs to get ratings, and they need to say what they need to say to get people. But I was just disappointed. I mean, the crowds were nice. That was, I think, the best part of the game. Both crowds were fun.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a very exciting match.
The second half was deadly. Nothing went on.
Yeah, it was boring. I mean, it's not what you want to, when you're watching a great Premier League match against the top two teams and you see good football and good skill you just didn't see that. It was very
we didn't see that yesterday in Manchester United Chelsea, that's for sure. There was not much going on.
They're not top two teams.
No,
they were supposed to be two teams, but they're not.
They're not. Rafael, let's talk a little bit about Slavisha Djokanovic, of course, Maccabi Tel Aviv's coach, moves over to Fulham. He may be on the sidelines tonight. There's still talk. Is he going to be in the director's box? Is he going to be on the sidelines? He leaves Maccabi Tel Aviv. What do you take away from this whole episode?
Well, I mean, it was obviously a strange one. We haven't had this kind of situation here for many years. But one thing before we get to that, I want to say in 10 seconds quickly is that a lot of people in Israeli media are talking about how Maccabi switches coaches all the time, and this is bad because they're switching a coach. But if you look at the league, I mean, coaches are being switched every year on every single team.
Dime a dozen.
It's a load of crap. That's one of the most ridiculous things I've heard, whether it's Haifa or Apollo Tel Aviv or Sachin or every team in the league switches managers. So I'm not worried about that. But regarding, the move, listen, you got to do what's best for you sometimes, and you got to do it in a respectful way. I think you and I disagree on maybe how it was done, but I think it was clear he wanted to go.
100%.
I'm not buying into the whole he wanted to go and he got here because he didn't smile all the time. That's just how some people are.
No.
Yeah, okay.
I don't buy it also. I think that what happened in the summer was that he was stuck without a job, especially when Watford collapsed. Maccabi swooped in and jumped in for him. He saw, hey, this is a chance for me to get to the Champions League. I'm going to get a player in Eran Zahavi who is a superstar, especially in the Israeli league. I have something to work with. I think he thought that he'd have more to work with within the team, and I thought he thought he probably was going to get more foreign players and better players coming in.
Definitely.
That didn't happen. He complained about it a lot and more than a lot. He then stopped talking about it for a while. At the end of the day, Maccabi was a great investment. They made €500,000 by selling him to Fulham right now, and they were smart enough to put that in an exit piece in the clause. There's been word that he was looking already since November to go. Fine, I have no issue at all. He did Maccabi Tel Aviv a massive favor. He took them to the Champions League for the first time in 11 years. He brought in 20-something million euros into Maccabi Tel Aviv by making it to the Champions League. On a professional level, of course, every manager wants to win, and I think he was very clear after the last game that he coached in the Champions League. The bottom line is, in order for Maccabi Tel Aviv to compete here, they need 5 true top-class foreign players.
Yeah, I mean, the Champions League was fun. I know you and I had fun, Josh, going to the games and seeing the players, but it wasn't really going to the games to see a competitive game. It was more kind of the seeing these great players that we see on TV in Israel that are getting to come here, which I think is unfortunate. I don't think it's Maccabi's fault at all.
Mm-hmm.
They're still way behind, the Israeli players behind. And you look at teams maybe like Astana, for example, who did really well, and everyone says, they have a low budget. But you look at their team, and 7 out of the 11 in the starting 11 were foreigners from Brazil and all sorts of other countries. So I don't think you can really, that wasn't talked about. Also, you look at the fact that Manchester United barely has any British players. I mean, a lot of Israeli players got to play in the Champions League. I think next year, if we see if they're in the Champions League and it's exactly the same, then that's a huge, huge problem. But I don't think it'll be the same next year. I think if they make it, they'll be a little better. To sum up the Slavica thing, he was a great coach, in my opinion. I know a lot of the fans now are saying he was number 3 or 4.
I think he was a great coach as well. I think that he was I think Paulo Sousa was still the best coach that they had, and he was able to manipulate and maneuver the team the way he needed to, and he also was able to prove it on a European level because they played in the Europa League, which is definitely a secondary European competition. I think he was an excellent coach. He didn't have the tools. I think he could have done a lot more, and that's what frustrated him. He didn't want to stay here. Once the Champions League was over, it's like it just wasn't for him. And on a personal level, he said it straight out. He wanted to go back to London, and I think we have to respect that. And the bottom line is Maccabi Tel Aviv knew that this was going to be a possibility when they signed him. And again, anybody with Maccabi Tel Aviv owes a huge debt of gratitude to Slaviša Djokanovic for what he did for the club this year.
No doubt about it. All right, we got to run. Raphael, thanks for being on. You know, by the way, me and Andy heard you and Josh go back and forth. It's kind of fun to watch, even though we don't really know much what's going on.
It reminded me of Pong.
Yeah, Pong was a good way to say it. Anyways, everyone check out Raphael on BBC. He's a BBC World Service News correspondent and writes for Vice. Raphael, thanks so much for being on tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Raphael.
Thanks, guys.
Speak to you later.
All right, be well. All right, Raphael Geller, quick break. On the other side, the champ will be here in about 2 minutes. This is Louis Live, and we'll be back after this. All right, on the line right now is not the champion of boxing, but he's a champion of general trivia knowledge about football. He is the deep voice, the voice of Baltimore sports. Deep voice Brian Hoffman. What up, Brian Hoffman?
You guys ready for the show to start?
A little trash talking.
Baby.
Well, I guess I'm going to hand you off to Andy first. You want to take him on? I don't know if I could deal with this monster.
I don't know. I'd have to take on 5 different NFL teams, but come on. I mean, bring it. I can trash talk every one of them.
All right.
Is he still wearing that Ray Lewis jersey?
He wore it to the bar mitzvah.
Absolutely. That is a Super Bowl 35 Ray Lewis jersey.
It's a killer.
Sales
It's a
rack
killer.
in Spanish Harlem
It's a
for
killer
$40.
jersey.
Oh, baby.
It's a killer jersey. Hey, I want to know, when the first-round matchup for the Ravens this year, how do you think they're going to do?
Well, I mean, we did beat the Steelers this week.
Excuse me,
apparently everything that hasn't been going well sort of went well this week somehow. We might have knocked the Steelers out of the playoffs.
Well, I want to introduce you to a phrase I was once told. The blind squirrel finds a nut. Have you ever heard that before?
And the Ravens always seem to beat Jeff Fisher, so if there could be an analogy between, that and the squirrel.
Brian,
I don't know what that means.
Brian, the Orioles are terrible. The Ravens are terrible. Should they just close the city of Baltimore for sports?
Well, the Orioles just, are dealing in a system of economic disparity. We're not the Red Sox. We can't just have a check and spend $250 million.
You've got the richest owner in baseball. Peter Angelos is one of the richest owners in baseball. Don't tell me they can't. I was at Camden Yards. They sell the place out. They sell the place out. He needs to pony up if he's going to play the big boys in the AL East, and you can't just say it's the Red Sox. Please, I mean, they've got the Red Sox, Yankees, a couple other teams there. Why can't the Orioles just bring in? What's the problems? In all seriousness,
well, first of all,
hold on. In all seriousness, why can't they land a huge free agent?
Well, it's not. Do you really? When a guy like Bryce Harper becomes available, and he might go for somewhere around the tune of 10 years, $400 million. Do you really want to be giving up all your funds just to land one player? Let's look at Giancarlo Stanton and, where do the Florida Marlins end up, utilizing those kind of contracts? I wouldn't be one to get a Greinke for, it depends, right player, right price. I don't really want to spend $30 million for a pitcher you're going to see once in the playoffs. It's a special hitter. It's a different situation.
All right, first of all, 400 is a low ball for Bryce Harper. But, all right, forget that. Let's go back to football because that's why you're here.
Yeah, seriously. Like, baseball is seriously tier 2. So, let's get back to bashing, Cowboys, the Patriots.
There's nothing to bash about the Cowboys. They're terrible. I mean, there's nothing to say there. The Patriots are depleted. They will lose their first playoff game and be done.
Wow. Big words from Andy Gershman. Now, what do you think of that? Madam Thomas and company going out in round 1?
No, I mean, they'll get a bye.
Not if they're playing the Bengals.
Really?
You
don't think
Bengals,
so? A.J. McCarron's playing well.
A.J. McCarron, I think, went out late in the game. I don't know who their third stringer is. Maybe they'll get Jimmy Clausen from the Ravens.
Oh, wait. I fell asleep. It was only 4 in the morning last time I checked.
Given the fact that I learned yesterday at your son's bar mitzvah, Andy, Ariel's bar mitzvah, a little shout-out, welcome to Israel. I found out that Ari Louis actually played fullback for the University of Notre Dame.
Yeah, I was. Well, they had to get one guy who was 5'7". I was like, I'll do that.
Wait a
That's
minute,
pretty cool.
Absolutely. I mean, you need a good water boy at some point. I mean, the hydration of players, is important.
I think it went something like, who has a lot of hair? And they said, Ari has a full back. I don't think he actually played on the
that's
team.
pretty clever.
I don't think he played on the team, Brian.
Well, speaking of water, I think both you and Andy should drink more water. It's healthier. Focus on more health water drinks.
I just want to put out there that as far as radio personalities in Israel are
Here we go.
considered, I am actually trending more on Facebook right now with Ariel and Judah Gershman than Ariel is.
Did you
with
say
the
Judah
Gershman boys.
It might have been Jonah Gershman. I believe it's Jonah Gershman. And I think
Jonah, it's all holy,
Excuse me. I think he wants to be called the champion Israel Sports Radio
Fantasy League,
football,
which he is. Congrats to him on that.
He has
Speaking of a guy who would bring one to a championship in fantasy football, a guy who.
Well, wait a second. By the way, Andy, didn't we say that not supposed to let him ramble? I think we're starting to lose it a bit. Let's pull it back. All right, my Cardinals are going to get the 2 seed, and they're now my Cardinals because they're doing well. We had Mark Asher at the beginning of the program. He thinks the Cardinals are very scary. Nobody wants to play them. How are they going to do in the playoffs?
The Cardinals, to me, are honestly, I thought of them, in a certain way up until a couple of weeks ago. I think the X factor with that team is going to be David Johnson, believe it or not, a guy who has shown himself the last couple of weeks, and he had some impressive stats earlier in the season, even though, they brought Chris Johnson in. Chris Johnson gets injured. Andre Ellington always gets injured. So here comes David Johnson. And he's a monster. He could eventually be the top 3 back in the NFL. I think that team kind of goes how David Johnson goes. Carson Palmer's staying healthy, but at this point, unless David Johnson really just continues to do what he's doing, which is mauling run defenses, I still have Seattle and Carolina a notch ahead, at least, of Arizona.
Really?
Yes,
Seattle?
I really haven't given up on Seattle yet. I just like teams with good defenses. So, we won Super Bowl 35.
Okay. So you don't think Carson Palmer's the X factor?
Carson Palmer, absolutely. His health is the X factor. You look at what happened last season where, he
Brian,
goes
come
out
on.
after,
The quarterback can't be the X factor. He touches the ball every offensive
anyone who
play.
said that has to be a moron, right?
Well, the fact that, look, last season Carson Palmer signed an extension.
Right.
And the week after that, he's completely out of the game. The Cardinals are totally done. So, Cardinals definitely do as Carson Palmer does. But this David Johnson is really something to look at in the final week of the season and as the playoffs begin.
Hey, Brian, as a guy who, was close to the Cincinnati Bengals as a Ravens fan, what is the difference in Carson Palmer from
when he played for Cincinnati is what he did now? Because
now, it's like all of a sudden he's getting all the accolades and praises. He was good, but he
not
never,
great.
Right.
He wasn't what he is now.
Couldn't get him over the top.
He was part of that Cincinnati bad luck. Look, I've been in the city of Cincinnati. I come from Baltimore, so to say a city is more boring than Baltimore is really saying something. And that city, along with Cleveland, the AFC North, they just can't put it together. It's one bad luck after the other, bad draft picks one after the other. Josh Gordon in Cincinnati, you got A.J. Dalton going down. And it's just one bad move after the other. So Carson Palmer, he's in the history of the Bungles. If you're on the Bungles, you're just not going to do good. Right. Remember Pittsburgh rolling over his foot years ago when Pittsburgh went on to beat Seattle in the Super Bowl. And Cincinnati could have been the team that year.
Conspiracy.
Oh boy!
All right, come on, Brian. We need your predictions. Give us the NFC and AFC final title game, and then your Super Bowl prediction.
I like, Carolina reminds me of the Ravens, to lose a game like that late in the season, maybe as a little bit of a wake-up call. I'm still putting Carolina and Seattle at the top of the NFC. If I have to give the edge to one of them right now, it's Carolina. Even after a losing week, a dark horse to win the Super Bowl right now out of the AFC, believe it or not, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Nobody are really talking about them.
I agree.
A super defense and offense, look, Super Bowl 35, the Ravens won with Trent Dilfer. So, certainly if the Chiefs defense is really that good, they could do it with Alex Smith.
Right. I think Andy Reid, one of the most underrated coaches.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
He took over. I mean, as soon as he changed teams, just how much better they did once he got there.
Right,
So
and I mean, we
He's
saw
not underrated.
Oh, I think so.
You think he's underrated?
Absolutely. I think
he's
Andy
not
Reid,
overrated. He's a great coach.
I think he's a great
but
coach.
But usually, when you say coach, the first thing you say is Belichick, right? That's what most of the media says.
Right, but the Reid McNabb tandem there was
NFC title game after NFC title game.
As good as any coach quarterback combo. And if it wasn't for
Belichick Brady,
it would
come out more.
And that time frame and Manning, I mean, that was a great.
Peyton Dungy is up there.
Great run there. And I think you're right with Andy Reid. And you know what? Alex Smith, serviceable quarterback, pushed him off from San Francisco for Colin Kaepernick, and we see how that worked out. I don't know. I think they are the dark horse team. But
the Chiefs, they've had one of the better turnover margins. They just win the ball on the defensive special teams, end of the ball there. They have an offense, everybody, is always talking in the beginning of the season, can a guy like, they bring in Macklin, can that help Alex Smith actually throw a ball beyond 4 yards? But,
and it did.
I was going up against Macklin in my consolation game this week, and he scores the first touchdown.
I thought we agreed that we don't talk about consolation games.
Yeah.
Well, pathetically enough, when one is that obsessed with fantasy football, they even get into the consolation.
Look, Brian, I know you live in Israel now. I know you live in Israel now, but in America, in American sports, we don't do third and fourth place. Okay,
it's European.
That's a very European thing. So.
I must have been so happy because I just got out of Papagayo for the best meal of the year.
We're not running up commercials.
Right.
By the way, did he answer the title game questions?
No, he didn't.
We got to run. So if you just say it real quick, because we got to call the next person.
Can we get an AFC title game and a Super Bowl champion?
I'm going to go nuts here. I'm going to go nuts, and because the Ravens have always been a dark horse to win a Super Bowl.
They can't win. They're not in the playoffs.
I'm going to just go nuts here, and I'm going to take the dark horse, the Kansas City Chiefs, to make people say, wow, what the blank.
But who are they playing?
So the Chiefs in the Super Bowl,
they're
who are they
playing either Carolina or Seattle. I got to give the nod to Carolina right now. Atlanta made them look beatable, and why not Kansas City over Carolina in the Super Bowl?
Kansas City's playing who in the AFC Championship?
In the AFC Championship, you got to go through New England, of course.
I don't know. I think it's the Jets.
Well, I certainly hope New England loses. That helps. Anyways, at the beginning of the season, actually, I had Green Bay come on the NFC, but I'm not sure right now. I'll have to make it later. Anyways, Deep Voice, we got to run. Thanks for being on. And the show started before you came on. But you helped it, and we appreciate that. So we'll be in touch. Thank you so much, Deep Voice.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me on. Andy, you stay in Israel for a while, baby. Nice having you here.
Thank you.
Good times.
Bye.
All right, we'll take a break. Coming up next, we don't know. You'll stay tuned. We'll find out when you do. Excuse me, Louis Live. We'll be back after this.
Come here, baby.
All right, we're crazy for some Israeli basketball. On the line right now, the best writer of Israeli basketball. Really amazing talent, and you can find out more about him in this segment and other places. Back to the program, David Doobie Pick. Doobie, what up?
I'm all right. How you doing, Ari?
We're all doing great. You're here with myself, Sports Rabbi Andy Gershman, and a lot of
wow.
Yes.
Full slate here, dude.
Full house.
Doobie, wait. I get to start this segment. Doobie. You gave me a 6-digit telephone number to call you on. This isn't Israel circa 1982. There are 7-digit numbers.
I did?
That was quite a game. Were you there Saturday night?
I was. I mean, quite a game. If you mean it almost put me to sleep.
Oh, my God. That was run and gun there. Sylvan Landesberg is a really nice player, though.
Yeah.
He's a really nice one-dimensional player who has elevated his game over the last season. Yes,
right.
True.
Right. Was he on the Haifa team when they won?
Pretty late.
Yeah,
he was on the Haifa team when they won.
When they won the title, he was Mr. Basketball State of New York coming up.
He was. What was that? I think the Sports Rabbi mumbled something. What was that?
He was on the Haifa team when they won the title.
He was on the Haifa team when Haifa won.
Is that correct?
No, he was with Maccabi when Haifa won.
He was.
Corey Carr,
yes,
though.
Corey Carr was on the team.
And he was inactive when Maccabi won the European Championship also.
Gal Meckel was on the Haifa team when they won.
This is true.
Yeah, let me ask you, Jimmy, the biggest story in Israeli basketball this year. Would you say Guy Goodis being fired, Hapoel Yerushalayim winning, or even Hapoel Eilat make it to the championship? What do you think was the biggest?
Oh wait, I think it's Maccabi Tel Aviv bowing out early.
Yeah, what do you think?
The biggest story in Israeli basketball?
Yeah, this year, 2015, the whole year.
Would be David Black getting a second chance in Cleveland.
Oh, you thought he was on his way out? Wow.
That is awesome.
No, truthfully, yeah. It's Maccabi Tel Aviv. It's how badly they stink. It's how they got knocked out of the top 16 in the EuroLeague. It's how they managed to rack up a terrible record, build a trashy team, kick Guy Goodis out.
Well, tell us what you really think.
No,
I'm kidding.
I'll never lie.
No, I know you would. Not Scott.
The fact of the matter is that Guy had to pay the price for a team that he didn't build.
Right.
It's just one of the worst things that can ever happen to a coach because you're not firing the management and you're not axing 12 players. But the truth has to be said that Jean Tabak has been doing a great job. He added a lot of elements that they were missing. He tried to mend the situation, and I think he's done a pretty decent job. But the core of the players that they have just don't fit each other. They're just terrible together. Whoever put the team together should literally quit his day job.
Didn't he do that already?
No, management's still there.
It wasn't a youngster Fetterman that put together the team?
The youngster Fetterman should take, just to be adequate, Danny Fetterman Jr., GM of Maccabi Tel Aviv, should take full responsibility on bringing Jordan Farmar, as is sending Jeremy Pargo away from Maccabi Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm. It all happened last year. Not many people know that right before the EuroLeague playoff series against Fenerbahce in Istanbul, Danny gave Jordan Farmar, then a player in Turkey, courtside tickets to the game. He brought Jordan into the locker room to see his former teammates. Mm-hmm. Jeremy, of course, didn't like that. He had one of his best games of his season, but right then and there he understood what was going on underneath the surface, and he eventually signed a $1 million contract in China, and Jordan Farmar is nowhere to be found right now.
Yeah.
So.
Jordan Farmar, Doobie, it's been reported only in the Israeli press by certain places that he had a break-in his home in Vegas. Somehow, somebody of such a superstar celebrity status in the United States, this hasn't made it to any U.S. Newspaper, media outlet, TMZ. Somebody that was hooked up to the Kardashians. Seems to me he might have been wanting to go home for the holidays, little homesickness, perhaps.
Yeah, the rumors have surfaced that Jordan might have kind of scanned Maccabi into this, made it up kind of to go home for the holidays. But truth be told, I actually tweeted about it, and I spoke to Jordan, and his family is here in Tel Aviv. His wife and his daughter are here, and his house was robbed. And,
interesting.
A lot of the things were stolen. Among those were his 2 NBA championship rings, as you mentioned, with the Lakers. It's unfortunate, but I want to believe that as of right now, he's supposed to be on a plane headed back to Israel.
Well, that'd be good news.
Wow. So
it'd be good, yeah.
Good news for him, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. All right, last question before we got to run.
Last question. I just came on.
Dude, we are up against it.
Andy just had me on.
All right, I'll be booking. I'll be on my plane before this show ends. I think.
Yeah, right. You're guest number 10 right now. But let's ask you this. Because me and Sports Rabbi spoke a few weeks ago that Sports Rabbi thinks Maccabi Tel Aviv is still the favorite to win in the Israeli league. But even with all their problems, so who is the favorite right now to win the Israeli championship?
Whoever is number 1 seed.
Oh, boy.
Who is
Okay.
that?
Well, you tell us.
Well, I think Hapoel Jerusalem are favorites to win the Israeli League championship. Again, I think they're going to go back-to-back.
Sports Rabbi does.
Not so much, give them credit, but not so much because of what they have, more so because what Maccabi have failed to build. Because the team that they have, I don't want to believe that the team they have right now will be there in May and June. they're going to make a lot of changes. They have to get a new big man, maybe even another power forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to judge them, then. But right now, they're not the favorites.
All right, well, there it is. So we'll keep an eye on everything. It'll be an interesting season, to say the least. Doobie, thanks for being on. Everybody check out David Doobie Pick on Twitter, on Facebook. Great to have you on. It's been too long. Thank you so much, and we'll speak very soon.
Thanks, guys. Love you guys.
All right, Doobie, have a good one.
All right, be well. David Doobie Pick, boys and girls, quick break, and we'll have a little treat on the other side. This is Louis Live. We'll be back after this. All right, back here on Louis Live. Our treat is that we're going to wrap up this program.
Oh, baby.
Guys, you have a good time?
We had a ball.
That was
fun.
Quick 2 hours.
Yeah, fast 2 hours of sports, as they say. So everyone, check out...
Wait, who is they?
I don't know.
Oh.
It's us now. Andy Gershman's book, Modern Day Maccabees, get on Amazon and Kindle. And you check out the Sports Rabbi's website, thesportsrabbi.com. And you can check out me on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. So a lot of good stuff there. Any final thoughts before we end the program?
It was nice to be back together. We haven't done this in a very long time.
Yeah.
It's been a number of years, and it's great to have Andy back in the saddle
thank
here
you.
in Israel.
Thank you.
I think we both feel very good that Andy's sitting here in Israel right now.
Yes.
I think
I wish I was sitting here much longer.
We know. But the seat will always be open for you.
Well, thank you.
Hopefully
Thank
the
you
seat will
both,
still
and,
be... Chair will be together.
Excuse me. Is that a fat joke?
Anyway, well, you had one about my hair. So now we're even. All right. So thank you, everyone, for listening, tuning in. Special thanks to Alex for doing all this work out here. Live show, a lot of things going on. People didn't pick up their phones all the time, and we had to move some things around. But at the end of the day, it all got settled out. Started the program with Mark Asher. That was pretty good highlight for me. I never knew that it bothered him in Gambo, and I got a special kick out of that, not going to lie to you. He likes the Cardinals in the playoffs. And then we went to Daniel Freeman to talk about NHL hockey. Did a great job, thanks to Daniel Freeman from WFAN. Radio Mike admits that he is a Yankees fan, but switch hats to follow Mets in the World Series. It's all right. Joe Robbins thinks Kobe, like myself, better closer than Michael Jordan, and he disagrees, and so does Josh. Mark Gordon.
Ask Craig Elo.
Yeah, well, we talk about it later on. Mark Gordon, world soccer correspondent, did a great job with Josh chatting it up about soccer. Israel lacrosse, of course, their tryouts are going on this week, and good luck to everyone participating in that, trying to make a national team. And Eddie's favorite UFC fighter of all time, Rory Singer, saying that Nick Diaz should not be suspended 5 years for smoking marijuana. David Doobie Pick upset at the management and all the problems with Maccabi Tel Aviv. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and be well, stay safe. And, of course, that's it for tonight. God bless, and good night.